We have with us in the studio retired Major General Henry Ayola, who is a former commander of Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. You're welcome, General.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
We also have with us Dr. Ahmed Adamu, who is a senior lecturer at Nile University and also a policy analyst. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Any surprises for you? Because in the last couple of weeks, we have been talking about the degenerating security situation. We've seen a number of governors go to pay the president a visit in the villa, talking about the security situation in the estates. We saw the governor, more specifically, the governor of
Zamfara?
No, not Zamfara, the governor of Nasarawa State,
yes.
Talk about how Boko Haram terrorists have taken over a particular route, you know, coming towards Abuja. So if we begin to see pockets of this style of abduction, should we be surprised?
Yeah, we should also be worried, because if you look at the trend, the escalation of the insecurity in the country, it's been getting worse and worse in different forms. You know, initially we didn't have these kind of cases of kidnapping, abduction, and this kind of armed gangs before. What we used to have was just militancy for oil and gas benefits back there in the south. But then we had the Boko Haram, and then we still have the Boko Haram around, and then we have the armed gangs, the armed bandits, the kidnapping, now the abduction, and the petty thefts, the robbery going on in the country. So it's getting worse and worse. So we should be worried and concerned about the situation we are going into as a country. And this also tells us that we are not applying the right approach in handling these issues. We've seen what happened since from the issue of Chibok, and that these people went on to Dapchi again, and now they went to Kankara, and now Kagara, and the which school is next? And Kankara is just recently. And it happened, I think we have to go back and look at what happened during the Kankara abduction. The government officials said they didn't pay any ransom. But people are still concerned. Maybe the officials may not want to tell us the truth, what really happened behind the curtain. Some people allege that money has been paid. And some people are even alleging that this is another means for corruption. The government official might say, we pay so amount of money, and while the bandits are collecting far less than that. Some people allege 800 million was paid. And the bandits are saying, some of them, according to what we heard from other people, they said they only collected 30 million. So all this has not been substantiated. It's just allegation. But we have to be very, very proactive. We don't have to be very reactive all the time. It has always been 100% successful. Anytime they attempted to abduct students from school, it happened. And there is no way the security at this kind of approach and situation could have averted this kind of attack or abduction. So to me, I think we have to look at the causes. And instead of just combating the effects and trying to see what can we do after it happened, now let's look at how does even these things started to happen initially. Yeah. So to me, I think it's a system failure. There is no administration that will come and fix security situation in Nigeria without addressing three system problems. Because it's our economic system, our family system, and our political system that brought us to where we are today. When we talk about economic system, the access to basic standard of living is a subject of money. For you to even live in this country, it's a function of money. If you fall sick, if you don't have money, you die. If you want to have access to quality education, you don't have money, you cannot. And everything is centered around money. Security, your own security, transport, water, energy, everything is money. And then there is so much desperation for the money. And if people don't have money to go to school, they don't have awareness. And then they can do anything because they're desperate. They can do anything for the money. And this is the desperation we are seeing in the form of kidnapping, abduction, and killings around the country. And sometimes these people are, they were potentially innocent people, these armed bandits. But because they are frustrated at the same time, they are desperate and they are frustrated. Maybe they've started doing some small businesses and they're not succeeding, they're not getting the money enough to pay for the basic standard of living. And someone that is desperate and frustrated, what will happen to that person? Someone wants to go to school to get quality education. He doesn't have the money to do that because the system said you must have money to get access to quality education. Then what do you do?
Do you think that we stand the risk of justifying this bandit?
No, I'm not trying to justify, but to point to the cost, real cost. What I'm saying is that let's change the system so that it's just about your wish, your willingness to get access to quality education. If I want to get quality education, I will get it, even if I don't have the money. If I want to get healthcare, I should get it. It's economic system. We are operating an excessive capitalist economic system where everything is centered around money. And then why is the government? The government should be there to help these people. There is a lady that dropped from school. Why? Because he couldn't pay the tuition fees. They wanted to sell their house property just to pay for the school, but they couldn't do that. And now this woman, she's not going to the school. What will you want this person to do? And this may lead her to losing her character. And a young person wants to go to school. He doesn't have the money to pay for that. What would you want that person to do? So what I'm saying is we need to look at the future recruits of all these kind of gangs that are likely to come forward. Because these people are Nigerians. We see them around, how desperate they become. They want to really make it in life, but they couldn't get it. So to me, this is the first economic system failure. The second one is family system failure, because we fail to have population management system. Our population is growing, is exploding without control, and is overwhelming compared to our available resources. We don't have educational resources, health resources, and facilities to cater for the growing population. So we have to grow, we have to manage the population that will be compatible for our own resources. And that's number two. Quickly, number three is the political system. When we have this kind of expensive and at the same time lucrative political system, then the tendency of electing the right leaders is very minimal. And when we don't have the right leaders, there will not be justice. And if there is no justice, there is no security. So we have to go back to the fundamentals. When we say we capture these people, we kill them, more armed bandits will come up again because the system that is producing them is still there. So ever again, continuously, again and again, we keep going into this kind of excessive insecurity again and again, where we have to fix this system failures.
But let me begin with Dr. Adamu. Policy is what this is at the heart of. I'll reference something that General Ayola said the other time about the role of politicians or politics in a war such as we have on our hands. If we are looking at policies, in what way do you think policy may have been responsible for the crisis we have on our hands? And what should we be doing now to tackle the issues?
I think first is to understand the sources of this conflict, the sources of this insecurity. And I started talking about the system failures. So you cannot come out with policy until you do a research. You need to look at the trend, you need to look at what is happening and at what scale, and then you come up with policy. And that's why I said, whatever we do, we are just curtailing the effects of the main problem. The main problem can only be understood when we look at the system issues, because these are the insecurity we have in the country are effects of system failures. So for us to really fix this insecurity problem, we have to look at these system issues, like I mentioned.
Well, Dr. Damo, if you don't mind me butting in for a bit,
this is a national.
Just a moment. Let's get into certain specifics, perhaps as an example. Now, we have been talking about this farmer-herder crisis for a good number of months now. And that is even just at the time that we have a pandemic on our hands. And definitely, you know, it has cut across, the issues have cut across so many other strata of our lives. Economic, food shortage is something that we're talking about now, you know, largely, and all of that. So if we're going to take an example of this farmer-herder clash that has festered into so many other departments of life, what system failure or what policy failure are we dealing with?
Yeah, farmer-herder issue I believe is the genesis of some of our crises, especially in the border states. You know, initially when it started with cattle rustling, when some people started stealing these cattle from the herders, and then in the process of recovering these cattle, and the innocent herders lost their cattle, and then they become angry, they become agitated, and they felt that they are neglected and there is no concern for them in terms of providing infrastructure. They left outside the main towns and they live in these rural areas. They are deprived, and that's what made them agitated. And I think we have to look back into those issues that lead to all this insecurity. And that's why I want to also refer back to what General said, saying that this could be the influx of foreign armed gangs coming from other countries. I believe the insecurity we have is internal. I understand there could be proliferation of arms from neighboring countries, but I believe these armed bandits are Nigerians. We may not recognize them as Nigerians because we neglected them and they were left out there. We thought they are not our problems because we thought we are okay because we can take care of our children. We neglect them, and this is the effect of neglecting other people. So I believe not giving them the attention they require, not providing the provision for them, I think that's what led them to become agitated and angry. So I believe this is a national emergency now. You see, when you neglect certain set of people, that's injustice, and this is coming back to us. And I think that's why I agree with the National Assembly that we should have a state of emergency on the insecurity, so that we don't have to follow all these procedures and these protocols, because this is getting out of hand. So I believe we have to look at the population issue, population management. We don't want to give birth to population and to people that we cannot cater for. If you give birth and grow population that you cannot give them education, you cannot give them security and health care, what are you doing? You are also giving birth to potential recruits into these armed bandits. So I believe the policy has to go back to the grassroots and resolve these system failures.
But, you know, some people will say, are we learning any lessons at all? I mean, the fact that we're chronicling now the number of schools that are being attacked, and as General pointed out, it seems this is now lucrative business. I do recall very clearly that in the wake of the Chibok kidnappings, which we are yet to recover from, because not all of the girls were recovered, there was a safe school initiative which was launched with a bit of fanfare, that at least at the minimum schools should have some minimum level of security. It looks like we've abandoned that thoroughly, especially when you look at the list of kidnappings that we've seen afterwards. What should we be doing about the safety of our schools? Because we also stand to jeopardize the future of our children when we continue to shut down boarding schools as a result of the security situation, don't we?
Yeah, I think in terms of scaring the country, I don't want to look at it from scaring a particular location or look at scaring a school. Because if you scare the school, what about homes? What about roads? People nowadays cannot travel. What if the student along the way, they were kidnapped? Just a few hours before the kidnapping in the Kagara, you said some people in the bus were kidnapped. What about those people? So it's not about a particular group or section or location in the country. It's the general security of the country we're talking about. We understand the importance of education, and this poses a threat to the access to quality education for the future generation. And if young people are now afraid to go to school because they don't know which school is next, now that tells you that the future is really not bright, because these are the people that have to be in school right now. And to me, I think what happened in the previous school kidnapping is what gave birth to this one. Because
the reason why we have to bring up schools, because we see over and
the
over
occurrence
again
of that.
that,
because
that
like
boarding schools have, especially government boarding schools that are not very strong in terms of protection, have been the ones that have been the subject of attack.
Yeah, I support we should maintain or provide relative security for schools, so that at least this could be minimized. But these people that have sophisticated arms, they can even overpower the security provision you might provide. And that's why I say we just have to look back and see where these things coming from and fix the sources. And I think giving them money or giving them ransom is what motivates them to do it again and again. And I think, to me, being very light with them is not a solution. And I support some politicians that believe that these people are not people that you sit down with them on the table and negotiate, because these people insult us as a country and they kill the Nigerians, and now you are now saying come and reconcile with them. Though I appreciate this kind of measure is being done in Zamfara State, it was effective. At least there is a minimal reduction, there is a reduction in this kind of cases. And now what these people are doing, they now go to Zamfara and hide, because there is a reconciliation, there is agreement that they accept they should not do any operation in Zamfara State. But what they do, they come into Katsina State and attack, and they go back to Zamfara. So you can see relative difference in terms of measures the state governments are taking. And I think, to me, for these people, I support the governor of Niger State. I say he's not going to pay any ransom. But I hope he will stick to his words.
Well, I think at the end of the day, what we really want is the safe return of the children. Because if he says not paying ransom, and then
but if they come back and then future children, again it happens again.
Indeed,
that's what we're trying to avoid.
I think we have to avoid that. But I do know that, anyways.
Let me say a word about securing the schools.
General, sorry, we're totally out of time. Okay. I wish we could go and to talk about that, and it would have been something that would have been worthwhile. But we have to thank you both for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning and sharing your honest thoughts with us. Retired Major General Henry Ayola is the former commander of Special Task Force Operation Safe Haven. And we also had with us Dr. Ahmed Adamu, who is a policy analyst and a senior lecturer at Nile University.